Well, hello there, ladies and gents. I'm Tammy Ski. Thank you so much for popping by my channel for one of my takes. If you feel like you're living through the middle of a Twilight Zone episode, don't worry. You're not alone. We're all in this together. It is very hard to be progressive right now in the United States because every time you turn on the TV, you just can't even believe what's coming out of the politicians' mouths. Now, poor Leticia James has been indicted. I would be scared if I was indicted. It's just a scary, scary word, but it is very easy to get an indictment. Like they say, you can indict a ham sandwich. That's how easy it is to get indicted. However, what's less easy is getting an actual conviction. And that's what happened here. Leticia James went for Donald Trump and convicted him of 34 felony counts in the state of New York. For that, she has been in his crosshairs ever since. He was found guilty for falsifying business records. They're going after her for mortgage fraud. If it's true, the total amount that she would have saved is around $19,000. Much like James Comey's indictment, I don't actually think it's going to go anywhere. I think it's probably going to wind up getting tossed out of court. So you might be wondering, how did anybody find out about her mortgages? Like who could just willy-nilly pull up information about somebody's mortgage to see that maybe they were untruthful? And the answer lies with one of Donald Trump's sycophants by the name of Bill Pulte. Bill Pulte has a lot in common with Donald Trump. They're both scions of real estate magnates, meaning that they're born into very wealthy families. They happen to have real estate in common. He is the grandson of the guy who owned Pulte Homes, one of the largest home builders in all of America. Now, he did work for the company, but I think it was since 2020, he's no longer affiliated with Pulte Homes because he was kicked off the board because the way he was publicly conducting himself, especially on Twitter. Now, when you're filthy, dirty rich and act like a crazy lunatic on Twitter attacking people, guess whose attention you might happen to draw? Yeah, the other lunatic, crazy rich person on Twitter, Donald Trump. While Donald Trump is campaigning, we have Bill Pulte and his wife donating huge sums to Trump's super PACs. Bill Pulte becomes the director of the Federal Housing Finance Agency. He basically ensures the stability of the mortgage market, and also Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Before I dive into a lot of the shady shit that Bill Pulte has pulled, let's take a look at the response that Leticia James put out. It's wonderful.
This is nothing more than a continuation of the president's desperate weaponization of our justice system. He is forcing federal law enforcement agencies to do his bidding, all because I did my job as the New York State Attorney General. These charges are baseless, and the president's own public statements make clear that his only goal is political retribution at any cost. The president's actions are a grave violation of our constitutional order and have drawn sharp criticism from members of both parties. His decision to fire a United States attorney who refused to bring charges against me and replace them with someone who is blindly loyal not to the law, but to the president is antithetical to the bedrock principles of our country.
Preach.
This is the time for leaders on both sides of the aisle to speak out against this blatant perversion of our system of justice. I stand strongly behind my office's litigation against the Trump Organization. We conducted a 2-year investigation based on the facts and evidence, not politics. Judges have upheld the trial court's finding that Donald Trump, his company, and his 2 sons are liable for fraud. I'm a proud woman of faith, and I know that faith and fear cannot share the same space. And so today, I'm not fearful. I'm fearless. And as my faith teaches me, no weapon formed against me shall prosper.
Amen.
We will fight these baseless charges aggressively, and my office will continue to fiercely protect New Yorkers and their rights. And I will continue to do my job.
That was New York State Attorney General Leticia James, and Leticia will not be bandied about. She's dauntless. She is unflappable. She's fierce. she's my kind of lady. Let's keep in mind that message that President Trump sent to his Attorney General, Pam Bondi, saying, Pam, what are we doing? We got to go after Shifty Schiff and Tisha and everybody else. Like, we're really taking a hit here. We got to go for these people. Bill Pulte is so obviously doing the bidding of Donald Trump. We have a very similar situation to this in Texas by Ken Paxton, a Republican who's running for the Senate, and he did exactly the same thing. Why haven't charges been filed against him? Does justice not slice both ways? Now let's talk a little bit about the backstory of Bill Pulte. Apparently, he's filthy rich. He's worth like $180 million. That's a lot of money, right? Would it surprise you to learn that during the pandemic, when they were trying to give out stimulus checks to keep the economy afloat, that he filed for one of those PPP loans, the Paycheck Protection Program? This guy was the recipient of $50,000 worth of those loans. In the end, if you wind up not having to pay it back, not really a loan, right? Did this multi-millionaire really need 50 grand of our money? I think that goes to show exactly who he is. But it gets worse. Let's go a little further in the future to that. We're talking like 22 and 23. There was a company called Bed Bath & Beyond. Not a very profitable company. In the end, they wind up filing for bankruptcy protections. At that time, when you hear someone's filing for bankruptcy, you're like, man, whatever stock I have, I'm selling it. I'm getting out of there. I'm getting rid of it. A lot of people began to buy this Bed Bath & Beyond stock because they thought it was going to have the same momentum as GameStop. Why would they think that? Ryan Cohen, who is the CEO of GameStop, he's known as an activist investor. He got involved with Bed Bath & Beyond. But once he got in there and, bought some stock and took a look around, was like, yeah, this is a complete shit show. I want nothing to do with this. Dumped his stock and left. So you might be wondering, how does a multi-millionaire become entangled with this whole meme stock gang? How does that even happen? There were countless Twitter handles and YouTube channels specifically dedicated to propping up this Bed Bath & Beyond stock. And one of the biggest shows, the biggest YouTube channels, was called PP Seeds. This guy would go live every night and talk about how this stock is going to skyrocket. And, it was an inside conspiracy that only the millionaires were going to be in on. But if you were like just a lay guy who bought into the stock, you could really get into it with the multimillionaires. And it was, Ryan Cohen was secretly involved, but nobody knew. It was all on the down low. One day, Bill Pulte slips into the chat. I think it's strange that this uber wealthy guy is hanging out on a YouTube channel talking about a bankrupt company. He was often in the chat talking about how this was, potentially a once-in-a-lifetime type of investment. Like, this could happen, guys. So it would cause the guys to go in there and buy more and more. And then it became disconnected from an investment to, it was more about being macho. Were you man enough to take a chance and buy into the stock? They started saying only the young and only the hung. Eventually, he invites PP Seeds down to Palm Beach where he lived with his wife, and they did a live stream from Bill Pulte's office. He continues, like they all get drunk, and it's like, the live stream itself, it looked like it may have been shot with a flip phone.
In terms of Ryan Cohen, do you think that, when he originally wrote a letter to the Bed Bath board, he said that...
Which I read today again, by the way.
Did you?
Yeah, it was good. Yeah.
What he says in that letter is that he would like to make Bye Bye Baby a destination for babies. The letter is the exact same, almost verbatim to what he wrote to GameStop years ago whenever he was taking his position into GameStop. What are your thoughts, man? Do you think that there's a possibility that he could still be perhaps behind Bye Bye Baby or Bed Bath & Beyond in general? And again, this is speculative. This is just a speculative question. And anything that you don't want to ask Bill, obviously you don't have to. But what are your thoughts there, man? Knowing, the type of person Ryan Cohen is, do you think that he would have, do you think he would have done the due diligence ahead of time before taking a position into Bed Bath & Beyond, only to later sell and just kind of give up? Or do you think maybe there's something else?
No, I think he's a fighter. It's just my own opinion. Nobody should listen to me. But I do think he's a fighter, and I do think at a minimum, this is going a little further than the last time we talked, but I do think he's going to fight for it at some level. How much he's going to fight, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he will make a surprise announcement. Maybe he won't.
Then he proceeds to say, hey, listen, PP Seeds is here. He's doing the hard work, keeping you informed of what's going on with this stock. Whoever sends PP Seeds a $500 super chat, you're going to come down to Florida and you're going to watch me give a talk and we're going to do a live stream. So here come the super chats rolling in. Now you're talking about people who have already invested practically all of their money to invest in that stock. Now they're adding more to give the $500 so that they can go meet Bill Pulte in real life. Because let me tell you, it was not about meeting PP Seeds. They wanted to meet Bill Pulte. Eventually, they do have the get-together. He hosts it. It's in his private airplane hangar. And, they got a film crew this time, so it's looking good. PP Seeds is there, along with all the other guys who've been sitting there talking about this crappy stock. Of course, the stock continues to go down and down and down. Now, when I talk to you about Bill Pulte's influence over these poor guys who really, they were just suckers. They were suckers because they believed this multimillionaire who was saying, listen, wink, wink, Ryan Cohen is secretly in on this stock. Nobody else knows it, just we know it. These people who sort of gravitate to conspiracies anyway, they're all in. They are all in. After he shills that, of course, it never goes anywhere. Anybody who bought into the stock got zero. They got nothing. That stock was not worth anything. Anything that they sort of carved out that was left over from the stores all went to creditors. So these guys took a real hard bath. You're probably thinking listen, this is no big deal. People lose money in stocks every day. But I think it's a very different thing when you have somebody who's a multimillionaire sort of waving pom-poms saying, I'm in on this big secret, and you could be in the club too. It's a very powerful suggestion, and there were thousands of these guys that bought in and believed it. He has his life savings in this stock that's now completely worthless. And this is after they canceled the stock. Let's listen to what he says. He's one of those guys that exist in the echo chamber.
It's just a quick message that I want to get out there. I'm seeing a lot of mixed feelings, which is natural. It's perfectly acceptable and it's expected given after all this time, we still don't have the missing pieces in front of us. We don't have the written guarantee of preservation, recovery. But what I'll expand on further in a minute is the fact that we can make a reasonably accurate deduction that we have won. Because I know I made a fucking amazing investment.
Oh, boy.
Okay, it's a fantastic investment.
Oh, boy.
And I'm about to be rewarded.
No, you're not.
We're all in shell shock. I'm in shell shock, but for a different reason. For me personally, I'm having difficulty processing what I've been envisioning and chasing after over the past years about to happen. Guys, we're on the verge of a groundbreaking shift in market mechanics. So I'm betting my life savings, this is going to be the greatest fucking investment of the century. And I don't think any other stock other than GameStop probably has received this amount of attention,
Right.
Scrutiny, debate, analysis, and we're such a large and diverse retail base, right? So the hive mind is what gives me that confidence.
And you always happen to show up at a good time and to boost a lot of people's morale. So.
Well, the intent isn't to boost anybody's morale. I think that, obviously I have my own opinion about what Ryan will do, but it's anyone's guess and nobody knows. I don't even think, Ryan's family even knows. I mean, I don't know if he has family or how close he is. I know his dad passed away, but I bet whatever he's doing is he's keeping it close to the vest as hell. And so we'll see. Hopefully we wake up one day and he's fulfills your guys' dreams.
Fast forward a couple of years, Donald Trump is campaigning, and Bill Pulte's like, you know what? If I donate enough money to Donald Trump, I bet you I can land a cabinet position. Easy. And that's exactly what he does. Gets cabinet position. Bill Pulte and his wife donate around $1 million. And you could do that through super PACs. You used to be sort of handcuffed to this $2,000 max that you could give to somebody. But with super PACs, you can give an unending amount of money. Citizens United, probably one of the worst rulings that has ever come out of the Supreme Court, and how it drastically shifted the dynamics of politics in our country. Awful. Especially when you have a candidate that is so easily purchased like Donald Trump. We see how many people have stroked him ginormous checks to get their kids a presidential pardon, to get them a presidential pardon. And I'm telling you, before he leaves office, Ghislaine Maxwell is getting a pardon. Why would somebody pardon a sex trafficker? Why? Donald Trump has the right to pick who he wants to pick to fill these positions, right? But can they be confirmed? Bill Pulte knows he has a problem with the history of everything he's ever put on Twitter and X. So he does a great purge. He just wipes all of that crap away. Anything that refers to anything shady, he erases. Obviously, I can never 100% know Bill Pulte's impact on these poor suckers, but I believe it was very high. If you could see all of the people in the comments and what they were saying, and through the different live streams, they were always talking about Bill Pulte, always. So I can't definitely say that it was singularly because of Bill Pulte that all of these poor dudes got sucked into this meme stock and lost their life savings. But I would say a very large percentage of them, in my opinion, took that bath because of Bill Pulte's presence on that pee-pee seed show. Is there ever any accountability for these multimillionaires when they do shady shit? No. You and I, of course, would be held accountable, but guys like that, just to get away with everything. I know it was brought up in the confirmation hearings, but it was quickly shut down. He just got to skate on out, and now he's sitting in Washington, D.C. Ain't that a bitch? These other dudes took an absolute beating, and he's sitting at the heart of our democracy. When you compare Leticia James to Bill Pulte or even Donald Trump, these guys were born into very wealthy families. Leticia James was one of 8 kids, went to public school, worked her way through college, and really not even just made something of herself. One could say she achieved the American dream, and here she is, the Attorney General for the state of New York. What an incredible story. And when you put it against the story of those other 2 guys, I think that's the problem. Donald Trump has always had a problem with self-made, powerful women. You look how he went after Rosie O'Donnell and how he went after Martha Stewart. He just cannot fathom that a woman could be successful in her own right. It bothers him because I think he knows in the back of his mind, if he was not born to a millionaire father, he would not be a millionaire today. He'd be just a regular dude, probably selling used cars, and he'd be totally bald because he wouldn't be able to afford his hair transplant. It's crazy to think that this is only the beginning. Who else is going to be on their hit list? We have no idea, but his enemies list is very long, and he's not going to let any of them skate. And it's going to do it here for me today. Thank you so much for joining me for one of my takes. I'll catch you next time. Take care.